Thank you. Hi, I was just wondering if you could talk a little bit about the John Dee opera project that you started working with Damon Albarn with, and a little bit about why you left the project, please.
Ooh, well, yes, I certainly could. Yeah, about 18 months, 2 years, no, probably more than that now. I just started doing my magazine, Dodge and Logic. I think we've got issue 1 out. And, or issue 2 might have even been out. And I was approached by the Manchester International Festival. I'd been approached the previous year by them, and they said, do you want to work with Gorillas on, who I believe are a popular music ensemble. Not the actual Primates. I mean, that'd just be stupid. But sort of, so I said, do you want to work with Gorillas on something for the Manchester International Festival? And I said, look, no, I'm sorry, I've got too much work on. I really haven't got the time to do it. Persistently, they phoned back a year later, and I said, look, I've got even more work now than sort of, you know, than I had before. So I really can't do this. But they were saying, well, look, you know, it could be, we were thinking, like, you could do an opera, like, all about superheroes. And I said, yeah, but I definitely don't want to do that either. You might have noticed that I've just spent the last 2 or 3 years reviling superheroes. And they said, oh, well, all right, it could be about anything you want. It could be about magic. I am a bit of a sucker, I suppose, for the old magic. And also, I like showing off and showing everybody how brilliant and knowledgeable I am. So I could not resist saying, well, if you want to do an opera that's about magic, then you should probably do it about alchemy, because actually opera grew out of alchemy. Monteverdi was an alchemist. You know, I know these things, and I really enjoy sort of rubbing people who don't know them's noses in it, I suppose. And they said, oh, that's fascinating. And so thus encouraged, I went on and was saying, and if you're going to do something about alchemy, and you're like the Manchester International Festival, then you're probably looking at something like an opera about John Dee, who practically designed modern Manchester when he was in exile. Well, effectively in exile. Queen Elizabeth had grown tired of him, and after he returned from Europe, she'd sent him up to Manchester to just do a boring job, which he did his best at, laying out the city centre, improving conditions there. That was where all of his family contracted plague, except for his daughter Catherine. His entire family was wiped out, and he returned with Catherine to Mortlake in London, where, attended only by his daughter and his spirits, he spent his last days, which William Shakespeare then turned into The Tempest, with Prospero and his daughter and his spirits on their isolated island. So they said, oh, that sounds fantastic. Perhaps we could just like meet with you and see if you've got any ideas that you could share with us. And I was starting to think, hang on, I've just started publishing an underground magazine, haven't I? Actually, getting Gorillas to maybe in a bit of a reciprocal deal, you know, if they'll do, say, a cover and a couple of pages for Dodge and Logic, then maybe, you know, that would help the magazine, and it might be quite interesting doing an opera about John Dee. So I arranged to meet with them. We talked. I said, would you like to do something for this Dodge and Logic magazine? I said, the next issue, the deadline for it I forget, end of February or something like that. And they said, yeah, that's fine, that's great. And I said, well, in that case, you know, I can do your opera. And they said, well, can you do us a little bit to show us what it would be like? And I've never written an opera before. I barely know what the word means. But I wrote my idea of an opera, and I'm pretty pleased with what I wrote. It was intelligent, and it was true to the spirit of John Dee. Don't know how well it would have worked as an opera. I mean, I've got a friend of mine, Tim Perkins, who's trying to do something with it along those lines at the moment. When I was asked about this at a thing down in Norwich recently, and I tactfully said, well, I was approached by this band to do this John Dee piece, but there were technical problems. Technically, they were dicks. Look, essentially, it got closer and closer to the deadline, and I was saying, well, I'm sure they're going to come through because I've already written a third of the opera for them. I've actually made myself a little bit exhausted and ill because I've got other stuff going on at the time. You know, I was doing a thing down in Aldborough with Ian Sinclair that took a lot of preparation, and then I was coming back and trying to get on with this opera. I got about a third of the opera written, and then the people at Dodge and Logic said, oh, there's apparently a problem with Gorillas. Apparently they won't be able to make the deadline for this issue. Which I'd been assured by them that was going to be all right when I'd spoken to them 2 or 3 weeks before. But no.